the Kawai K1 and the K4. These are two late 80s PCM synthesizers that were really trying to take down the D50 and D5, D10 range from Roland. Kawai is not a small player in the business. While they may be known as the name Cute, like Hello Kitty here, they are one of the biggest in the industry.
Hello Kitty's cool, but I like Karopi the best.
So let's look at some of the differences between the K1 and the K4. They're both PCM synthesizers and have some good layering capabilities. The synthesis module or functionality kind of operates like a four operator FM synth. But the K1 synth is built entirely off of 8-bit samples and then digital waveforms, where the K4 is a combination of 16-bit samples as well as some 8-bit samples. The K1, people think of it as like chirpy and noisy, and yes, that's true, but that's also a reason to like it. So now we're dialing into some similar sounds to hear the difference between the K1 and the K4, and they're not terribly different. And we're just looking at some of the singles here. The multi-patches have, especially with the K4, you can build a whole bunch of splits and stuff with them. So you can do a lot of really great stuff, but I'm just going to focus on the sound quality right now. The K1 does not include a true filter, and while you can use multiple waveforms layered together, the K4 has a true digital filter that can be used, and it also has a more complex LFO, which will allow you to build better, deeper effects. Where the LFO on the K1 is not bad, but it only has 3 modes, where I think there's 5 on the K4. So there is a lot more you can do there. And the K4 was, delivered 2 years after the K1. The K1, I think, feels like it was a bit of a rush to market to beat out on the D10 that was coming out from Roland after the release of the D50. And Kawai's main aim here was to build a more cost-effective model that would prevent people from paying or investing into the D50, or for those who are really trying to get to that level of synthesizer without the scratch that would be required to buy a Roland D50, which is extremely expensive at the time. The K1 was kind of an economical option, and believe me, it's a good thing. It's a good option if that's what you had at the time. And running through the synth parameters on the K1 is actually super easy. You just hit the edit button, and your top buttons allow you to basically select your tone, and bottom up buttons let you kind of turn things on, and then your A, B, C, and D patches let you run through the parameters. Very simple. It's a little more complex on the K4, but if you get it right and actually lean into it, there is so much more that the K4 can do with layering, with the more complex LFO, with the filter. Some of the patches you can create are really remarkable. In both cases, they do have 250 wave shapes, which are a combination of samples and kind of like digital synthesis tones that allow you to get a pretty good range. But with your attenuator, with your LFO, and with the layering, you can build something that is really snappy, or really a long growing sound that comes over time. In both cases, these are great. If I were to give you one recommendation right off the bat, it would be that the K4 keyboard, the synthesizer with the keys attached, is probably the best option of everything Kawai offered in the 80s, aside from maybe the K5, which I have never seen in real life. But the K4 with the keyboard includes a whole bunch of effects, and they're actually pretty good from what I've seen. I don't own one, but the K4R has stripped those off because their expectation would be that if you were to have a rack, you'd also have a Digitech or Alesis MIDI Verb or some other effects module that you'd be using. Not a bad idea, but why not just include it like the Roland JV series and such, that where like the effects are, you know, almost as good as the synth. When the K4 came out in 1989, Musines recommended it as like a really should buy synthesizer unless you already had the K1. And I can totally see where they're coming from. Even though we've got 16-bit PCM with the K4 and there is more capability, all in, the sounds kind of feel the same. The synthesis kind of feels the same. And if I already had a K1, would I want this, or would I want maybe something from Korg or Yamaha or something else to kind of round out or, you know, augment my sound? Because both of these synthesizers really do have kind of the same, like, you know, kind of sound design to them. And while you can do some pretty wild stuff, and you can get some good noise out of the K1, and you can get some really nice, like, you know, beauty out of the K4, they're not too different. So looking at these synths like almost 40 years on, my recommendation is like one of them will suffice. I like that I have both, and I'm sure I will play more with them, but they're not too different for what you're going to do. The K4 offers a ton more split modes. As we talked about, it does have a better alpha, it does have a filter, it does have a lot more to offer as far as you know, holding sounds, maintaining sounds. It has that, you know, card if you you know, want to get really old school and back things up. But like all in, I feel like these keyboards are, or these synths are, like more similar than they are different, and frankly, like both of them are nice options. And one thing that's also of note is that the Kawai keyboard itself is actually really nice instrument. Like the key bed on some Rolands I feel really flat. You know, the pressure sensitivity and aftertouch on the K1 really good. And you think about this as kind of a budget item, even though it was 400 quid or $500 in 1987, which is like, whoa, that's like 2,000 bucks now, I think. You know, this synthesizer does not feel low quality at all. And I've played, you know, later Kawais that feel garbage, and that have like less synth power than this. To me, the K1 and the K4 are great options if you want something that is unique and from the 80s. The synthesis is a little bit different from FM, of course. It's a little bit different from the ALA synthesis from Roland, and of course it's like, you know, different from the Oasis or whatever the synthesis at the time from Korg was for PCM. But I think that's part of the charm and part of the fun, where, you know, we're looking at synths that came out literally like a few years after the idea of digital synthesizers came to be, and whether you're using a you know, a unit that is later, like a modern Triton, or, you know, new Yamaha or whatever, or you're using a DAW, you're not getting the raw feel that you're getting from some of these early digital synths. And while you know, the sounds may feel a little dated, and honestly, like they're a little chirpy or a little bit like fuzzy, I honestly think that's part of the charm. So there you have it. Let me know what you think. Do you like either of these? Do you hate them? Do you think that there is a major difference between them and a reason to own one over the other in 2025 or whatever year in the future you may be watching this? Let me know.